Good day everyone, Dr. Polaris here. The Orang Pendek is a supposed bipedal non-human primate said to inhabit the jungles of Sumatra. The name can be translated as meaning short person in Indonesian. Standing roughly 3 to 4 feet tall, the creature, witnesses claim, is covered in a short coat of fur, typically black or grey, but occasionally reddish individuals have been reported. The Orang Pendek is said to walk entirely on its hind limbs, much like a person, or the many Bigfoot-type cryptids, spending the majority of its time on the ground. It is apparently omnivorous, eating a mixture of fruit, leaves and small animals. Inhabitants of the Kerinci region claim that the creature possesses incredible strength and occasionally raids their fields, stealing potatoes and fruit. As the island is covered in tropical forests and houses a high degree of primate diversity, including monkeys, gibbons and orangutans, the presence of a mystery primate would not be out of the question. As recently as 2017, a new species of orangutan, Pongo tapanuliensis, was identified, leaving further room for possible discoveries in the future. Stories of small bipedal ape-men have been told across the islands of Southeast Asia for centuries. These tend to occupy a spectrum of attributes, ranging from animals that appear hairy and very ape-like, to bipedal humanoids that are described as being pygmies. The Orang Pendek falls somewhere in the middle. Witnesses too can be divided up into different groups, and these include the Suku Anak Dalam, a group of people who have lived throughout their history in the area's forests, away from towns and cities, local villagers, Dutch colonists of the early 20th century, and recent Western explorers. Orang Pendek-like beings have been a part of the Suku Anak Dalam's worldview for centuries. This forest-dwelling tribe has described the animal as a co-inhabitant of the forest. They know when they are entering and leaving Orang Pendek's territory, and they will often leave offerings of tobacco to keep it happy, bringing to mind the gifts laid out to placate local spirits the world over. Local villagers provide by far the largest wealth of lore and information we have on the cryptid. Everyone in the area knows someone who has seen the animal. This can be a disadvantage to those seeking details about the creature, because most people seem to have adopted into their own beliefs a common story regarding the creature. For instance, many people interviewed about the animal by recent expeditions say that its feet are put on backwards so that when it walks no one knows which way it is going. Descriptions like this are totally implausible, with the Orang Pendek taking on qualities of a mythical creature. In general, it is difficult to decide what to make of this group of witnesses. While they are by far the most numerous and therefore likely to have seen the cryptid, and many provide very convincing, realistic and detailed descriptions, they also share a very strong tradition of a mythologically oriented view of the world. Many locals speak earnestly about a fear of ghosts and evil spirits while travelling through the jungle. In the early 1900s, Indonesia was a Dutch colony. A few settlers provided Westerners with their first introduction to the Orang Pendek, as they described several first and second-hand experiences with the animal. Among the most famous of these witnesses was a man named Mr. van Heerwarden, who while surveying some land in Sumatra in 1923 described this encounter. "I discovered a dark and hairy creature on a branch. The animal was also hairy on the front of its body. The colour there was a little lighter than on the back. The very dark hair on its head fell to just below the shoulder blades or even to the waist. Had it been standing, its arms would have reached to above its knees. They were therefore long, but its legs to me seemed rather short. I did not see its feet, but I did see some toes which were shaped in a very normal manner. There was nothing repulsive or ugly about its face, nor was it at all ape-like." Another man, Mr. Oosting, described another first-hand encounter with a strange animal. While walking through the forest, he saw what looked like a man sitting on a log and facing away from him. "I saw that he had short hair, cut short, I thought, and I suddenly realised that his neck was oddly leathery and extremely filthy. That chap's got a very dirty and wrinkled neck, I said to myself. His body was as large as a medium-sized native's, and he had thick square shoulders, not sloping at all. He seemed to be as tall as I was. Then I saw that it was not a man. It was not an orangutan. I had seen one of these large apes a short time before. It was more like a monstrously large siamang, but a siamang has long hair, and there was no doubt that this had short hair. These accounts are poorly documented. The witnesses obviously cannot be questioned further, and the descriptions they give differ significantly in some respects from the consensus of recent witnesses. But regardless of how believable they are, these stories provide another piece of the complicated puzzle surrounding the Orang Pendek. In more recent decades, zoologists have journeyed to Sumatra in order to prove the credibility of such tales. Most notable amongst this group are two British researchers, Martyr and Jeremy Holden. Both have been working more or less continuously to photograph the Orang Pendek since 1990, so far without success. Both also claim to have seen the animal personally on several occasions. Martyr described her sighting in this way: "It walked straight across the valley in front of me, 30 metres away, so close. I didn't expect it. I certainly didn't expect to see it so clearly. It was walking between two trees, vegetation to about hip level. This gorgeous, graceful, very strongly built primate, a big ape, walking out of a legend and into broad daylight, lit up by the sun. If I'd seen it concealed in the undergrowth, I could have said, well, I saw something. But I didn't see something. I saw an Orang Pendek." Some researchers have suggested that the Orang Pendek may be an ancient member of the genus Homo, given its penchant for bipedal walking. The discovery of Homo floresiensis remains in the region, dating up to 50,000 years ago, have renewed speculation that the cryptid might be a descendant of these diminutive hominins. However, Homo floresiensis, while standing a mere 3 to 4 feet tall, would have strongly resembled modern humans in that they probably lacked a great deal of body hair and possessed smaller jaws and teeth than those of non-human primates. In addition, almost all reports of the Orang Pendek describe a creature far more like an oversized gibbon or furry-coated ape than simply a miniature human. There is certainly plenty of ammunition for Orang Pendek skeptics. As an example, many locals say that Orang Pendek's feet look like those of a 7-year-old child's, and that they know this because of footprints they found while walking through the forest. However, another forest-dwelling animal, the sun bear, is a likely source of these sightings. Bears in general are known for having feet that look quite human-like, and the sun bears would match closely those of a child. So could Orang Pendek be nothing more than the product of misidentification? After all, gibbons and siamangs, who populate the forests in this area, are known to occasionally descend to the ground and walk on 2 legs. The Orang Pendek research site had this to say about the subject of the cryptid's identity. While we can detect a definite thread of realistic, believable, matter-of-fact documentation in the body of folklore the locals have surrounding the Orang Pendek, we are continuously impressed at how fantastical claims about the creature's appearance and behaviour are often blended seamlessly with the mundane. And the variety of descriptions lets us know that not everyone is reporting their own personal experiences with photographic accuracy. Some claim Orang Pendek has a shoulder or even waist-length mane of blonde hair. Some say it has black fur, some tan or brown, some red or grey. There are the backwards feet stories mentioned above. Some say it can upend and break tree trunks in half effortlessly. Some suku anak dalam have even claimed that Orang Pendek, learning from its more advanced neighbours, has learned how to smoke cigarettes. Additionally, the name Orang Pendek itself leads to confusion. We have had people come to our house and excitedly tell us they saw 5 Orang Pendek cross the road the other day as they were driving along a forest road. We in turn excitedly start taking notes and asking for descriptions, and evidently our witness begins describing the yellow shirts these Orang Pendek were wearing. We realised very quickly that many locals interpret the name more literally as referring to short people. Combine this with a tendency in the area among less educated people to muddle the difference between apes and forest-dwelling people like the suku anak dalam, and we have another possible source of mistaken identity. However, given these reservations, I'm still not tempted to dismiss these reports outright. Given the recent discovery of the Tapanuli orangutan, as well as the highly detailed sightings from respected zoologists and scientists, it is still likely that the majority of these reports are cases of mistaken identity, especially given the reported dark coloration of the cryptid and the black coats of the large siamang gibbon present in the region. These animals also walk bipedally when on the ground, with adult males standing over 3 feet tall when doing so. If the Orang Pendek is a real animal, what could we expect it to be? My best guesses include an identity as a large, increasingly terrestrial gibbon, or perhaps a Pongine relative of orangutans. I would personally lean more in favour of the latter, but I would like to hear any suggestions that you might have in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everyone. Next episode will cover the bear subfamily Ailuropodinae, which contains the modern giant panda and its extinct relatives. See you again soon. Cheerio.